Today we're going to be checking out two new entry-level sub $200 digital night vision devices, the NVG40 and the NVG40 Pro, and based on the experience I've had testing this out over the last few weeks, they're both very compelling options in the low budget night vision category. We'll start this video off by breaking down their specs and features, checking out some of their mounting options, and seeing how they perform in a few different environments, and then we'll compare them against a handful of their competitors so you can get a good idea of how they stack up and whether or not these night vision monoculars are going to be right for you. And before we get into it, I do need to disclose that I sell the NVG40 on my website Goodnight Gear, but a lot of people are asking how they work and how they stack up to some other digital units, and I also do sell a bunch of other digital night vision products on my website, so as always I will give you guys my fair assessment of what they can do. Alright, so we're going to start off with the basic overview of the NVG40 and the NVG40 Pro. And these two devices are pretty much identical from the outside, and the main difference lies in the sensor type, and the NVG40 Pro offers a little bit more, including a color viewing mode and a few unique menu options, and we'll touch on those a little bit later in the video. The monocular itself is relatively large for a helmet mountable binocular, but it's pretty lightweight, and on the front you've got the focusable objective lens and IR illumination, and on the other side you've got the eyepiece with the adjustable diopter, and up here we've got this port cover which is going to protect the USB-C charging input, which you can use to charge the built-in battery, and the micro SD card slot that you use for video recording. On top of the device we've got the basic controls and a spot for the mount, and then on the bottom there's a tripod adapter. The NVG40 comes with a dovetail compatible mounting arm, and the arm itself is made from metal, and you can adjust the position of the mount horizontally, and the dovetail is made from plastic, but you can screw it into two different positions and then connect this to an L4G24 style mount, which we also sell on the website. You can mount this over the right or the left eye, and I was able to position this right up against my eye quite comfortably, so overall it's a decent setup considering the price, and there aren't too many dovetail compatible binoculars available at this price point. There's no Bino bridge specifically designed for the NVG40 yet, and I'm not sure if there is one in the pipeline or not, but I was able to bridge together a pair in a bit of a bootleg fashion with the Wild Game Plus bridge that's designed for the NVG30. You do have to use the tripod mount, which is located at the bottom of the NVG40, and as a result you have to mount them upside down, so the information on the display would be a bit more confusing, and the connection to the tripod mount isn't the most secure, and it might have the tendency to come loose if it's bumped, so you might have to retighten these from time to time depending on how much movement you're going to be doing, but you could use some Loctite to make the position a bit more permanent. Anyways, I did have fun walking around with them in the Bino configuration, and this might be another viable option for you to consider at some point down the line. Now we're going to take a little look through the devices to give you an idea of their UIs, and on the left we've got the NVG40 Pro, and on the right we've got the NVG40, and you can see they do look a little bit different, and we're looking at the Pro model with the full color mode, and it does have a compass and a bit more visually pleasing UI that shows the remaining battery life and the IR levels. Both of the devices do have a circular shaped display with a 454 by 454 resolution, and I do like this circular full screen viewing mode because it does provide a very immersive experience. The menus do look a little bit different, and we won't go too deep into these, but they do both offer some pretty advanced features like the ability to switch from 50 to 60 frames per second and exposure value control, and we'll go a little bit deeper into some of these different adjustments a little later on. Both of these devices do have the ability to record video and photos directly to a micro SD card, which is a nice feature, and at the moment the footage on the left was recorded to the NVG40 Pro in 4K, and on the right is the footage from the NVG40 in 1080p, and both of these devices are recording in black and white at the moment. One thing to keep in mind is that footage recorded from the viewfinder is going to look a little bit different because it's a circular screen, and the recording dimensions are a bit wider and more rectangular, so you will see a bit more on the recorded footage compared to what you see through the eyepiece. Footage recorded in 1080p does appear to be a little bit sharper, and there's a bit more contrast on the NVG40. The color viewing mode on the NVG40 Pro is nice and mostly purple when you're running the IR lighting. At the moment the strength and night vision mode is off, and the distances you're able to see are pretty limited, and it doesn't really seem to make much difference regardless of how much you crank up the IR, so this mode would only really be suitable for indoor use, but when you turn on the strength and night vision mode you are able to see quite a bit further, and the range of the device is much better suited for outdoor use. You do really need IR lighting with this device to see at night, and when you turn it off you're pretty much unable to see even with sufficient moonlight. In contrast, the NVG40 does do reasonably well with no IR lighting in good moonlight, and tonight the moon illumination level was 93%, though it was not visible in the sky at the time of filming this video, and it is slightly better than what you'd see with the naked eye. It does do better when the IR is turned on, and I do feel like the low light performance is slightly better on this device with or without IR lighting on, but there is a significant amount of settings in the menu of the NVG40 Pro that I still need to play around with, and I think that there might be some more room to squeeze better performance out of this device. Now we're going to compare the NVG40 and the NVG40 Pro to a few other budget-friendly night vision devices, and I've done my best to turn the garage into a low light room to help make better night vision comparisons moving forward. And right now IR illuminators are turned on, and we're approximately 5 meters or 6 feet from the target, and these photos were all taken through the eyepiece using a Google Pixel 7. We've got a nice lineup of budget-friendly devices, including the Night Operator's Max 2.0, which also sells for about $200, so it's probably the most fair comparison from a price perspective. The Night Fox Prowl is also $200, the NVG10, which was the first model in the NVG line, and this one is about $300, and finally the NVG30, which retails for about $495, and an analog Gen 2 Plus PVS-14 as a control unit, which I purchased for about $2,600. The NVG40s do have a relatively compact field of view, but they are better than the NVG10, but they do fall short to the other devices here. So the field of view is relatively compact both vertically and horizontally. They are the only digital unit to offer a full circular display, and you can see that the Night Operator's device and the Night Fox Prowl are slightly cut off, so it does deliver a very good experience from this perspective. Let's switch off the IR lighting, and this is going to be a critical point of comparison for people who want to limit their IR signature to other people running night vision, and these are much tougher conditions for digital night vision in particular, and as you can see, most of these units are struggling quite a bit. We've lost the image entirely on the NVG40, the NVG40 Pro, and the Night Fox Prowl, and we do have a very faint image on the Night Operator's Max 2.0 and the NVG10, but under these conditions, the NVG30 really outperforms amongst the other lower budget tier digital devices, and it's much closer to the analog PVS-14 than any of the digital devices. We'll wrap things up with my final thoughts on these devices and how they compare to other offerings in the same price range. It was pretty clear in my testing that both of these monoculars do rely heavily on IR lighting, as many budget devices do, but if you're not concerned about running IR, then they are very intriguing for the price. I was a bit surprised that the range and the contrast did seem to be slightly better on the NVG40. Movement and aiming are both fairly good with these units, and both the NVG40 and the NVG40 Pro offer much less latency compared to the Night Fox Prowl, which is a deal breaker for the Prowl for anything other than observational purposes, and latency is roughly the same as the Night Operator's Max 2.0. The Max 2.0 did perform slightly better with no IR, but it's still not good enough to use without IR in most situations, so you will most likely end up turning on IR anyways. The Night Operators is very basic in terms of the menu options and overall functionality, so the NVG40 lineup does offer considerably more capabilities, including video recording, which is a very cool feature to have. Either of the NVG40s would be good for hiking, airsoft, and basic tactical use cases, so long as you understand the risks associated with your IR signature, but if you're not concerned about that, then these devices would definitely give you a big advantage. Let me know your thoughts on the NVG40 down in the comments, and if you want to pick one up and help support the channel, you can find links down in the description.